Was JFK actually a Republican? How many rooms in his childhood home were haunted? Did his high school math teacher ever think fondly of him? Stick around and you might just find out the answers to these questions on this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Solved! Yo, 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 what is up? Welcome back to the podcast. It is a wonderful Thursday once again. We are about to solve a mystery. I am Chad Kimmons, and today with me, as usual, is my co-host and fellow PhD in solving unsolved mysteries,
Dr. Colt Joyce here, reporting in.
If you've never listened to the podcast before, the way it works is every week we bring you an unexplained or unsolved mystery, and we discuss the facts, and then we solve it, because we're experts. We have PhDs. I believe Colt has multiple PhDs.
And they shift from week to week to whatever is most important and most relevant. And
right. I believe you had one in astrophysics in a previous episode.
I did, yeah.
And I don't think it ever really came in handy during the episode, but you know.
No, yeah. Well, this week I have degrees in unsolved mysteries, obviously. That's kind of like the baseline one. But the other one's botany this week, so we'll see if that plays in or not.
Well, I mean, obviously you gotta have the, because like when I asked you to do the podcast with me, I said, do you have a PhD in unsolved mysteries? And I believe you said, I don't even know what an unsolved mystery is. And I was like, oh, well, you can't be on the podcast then. Mm-hmm. To which you replied, hold on, give me a couple of hours. And then you faxed me what looked like a degree drawn in crayon.
That's correct.
I was just so hard up. I needed a co-host. So I was like, whatever, I'll let him on the show.
Yeah. That was actually from Arizona State University. That's how they do it now.
It's a nice callback to the first episode, I believe. Yeah, that's I think that's how they do it now. And you know, you enter your credit card information and they're like, what kind of degree do you want? And you know, a couple hours later, a courier shows up with a piece of paper that says you have a PhD in that, but it's drawn in crayon.
That is correct.
I feel like at some point we're going to get sued by Arizona State University for slander and libel.
Probably, but that's okay. I'll just ask for a law degree from them and then we can fight back.
Right. Crap, we didn't think of that. Well, today's episode is going to be less of a mystery.
Okay.
It's more of a conspiracy. We're going to discuss it, and we're going to finally put this thing to bed once and for all right here on this podcast. The only podcast that's going to give you the true answers about what happens in, you know, let's try that again. The only podcast that will tell you the absolute truth when it comes to unsolved mysteries. Other podcasts, you know, they're like, well, you know, here's the evidence, and we think that, you know, like this might have happened, and you know, like we're being very logical here. No, we know what happened. We tell you what happened.
Mm-hmm. None of that wishy-washy bullshit. We will tell you the facts.
Mm-hmm. Preach it, brother. Amen.
Amen.
So everyone knows who John Fitzgerald Kennedy was. Everyone knows that he was assassinated. So we're just going to give a very brief glimpse at him to refresh people's minds. And then we're going to jump right into the meat of this episode, which is discussing who assassinated him.
Gotcha.
And there are a lot of theories, and we're going to tell you which one, if any of them, is actually true. So, you ready for this, Colt?
I'm ready. I'm strapped in.
Y'all ready for this?
Bump.
Right. So here's the pertinent info about JFK. He was the 35th President of the United States. On November 22nd, 1963, at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, he was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, while riding a presidential motorcade through Dealey Plaza. And this, I mean, it threw the country into a tailspin for weeks to follow. People who were alive at the time and are alive today can still tell you exactly what they were doing when they learned that JFK had been assassinated. Mm-hmm. And that is literally the only information I'm going to give about JFK specifically.
Sounds good.
If you're not familiar with his life, I strongly recommend that you go read up on him because, I mean, he was a very interesting person, but we're not here to discuss him specifically. What we are here to discuss is the government cover-up of who really killed him. The government wants you to believe that it was a man named Lee Harvey Oswald, a name that I'm sure a lot of people know. Oswald was a U.S. Marine and an American Marxist, and it's not really certain when he started to study communism and socialism, but we do know that he was already interested in Marxism by the time he turned 15. So, I mean, he started at a very young age. And then when he was around 20, he visited the Soviet Union and defected to Russia.
Okay.
Now, the story goes that Oswald camped out in the Texas School Book Depository on the 6th floor where he worked, behind some books. He fired 3 shots from a rifle from a window as the motorcade passed by the depository. And then he hid the rifle and covered it with some boxes and left immediately via a rear stairwell. On his way out, I think it was like 90 seconds later or something, he was confronted by a police officer as he was on his way out of the building. But the police officer was with like his manager or something. And this guy was like, no, that's an employee. So the police officer was like, all right, whatever, you can go. And he barely made it out of the building before they locked it down.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, in everything that I looked at, it was like less than a minute after he, like, they think that like less than a minute after he got out of the building was when they locked the building down. Mm-hmm. He got on a bus, went 2 blocks, got off the bus, and took a cab home. When he got home, he went to his room, and he left shortly thereafter. The person at the front desk or whatever, because it was like a boarding house, it wasn't like an actual house, said that he left wearing a jacket that he did not have coming in.
Wait, so, okay. So he just got a jacket out of his closet? Is that what's happened there?
Yeah, like he went and changed clothes apparently.
Cool.
And then as he was walking away, a police officer named J.D. Tippit pulled up and had words with him because he recognized him from the police sketches or whatever, because like there was one witness who happened to see him in the window or something like that.
Okay.
And he, he's like, oh, that guy looks a lot like our suspect. So he pulled up and had words with him. And remember J.D. Tippit, because he's going to come into play a little bit later.
Okay, sounds good.
Tippit gets out of the car, and Oswald shot him 4 times with a revolver and ran off. And then, yeah.
Okay.
Like, even if he didn't kill JFK, he's wanted for murder now because he was, like, people heard the shots. They didn't. I guess nobody saw him shoot the cop, but they heard the shots and saw him running off with a revolver.
Okay.
So either he shot this guy too, or he was really thrown under the bus. And then about 2 p.m., he was arrested at a movie theater where he had been seen earlier slipping in without paying. 2 days later, he was murdered by Jack Ruby, a Dallas nightclub owner, while he was being escorted through the basement of the Dallas police headquarters. And Ruby said that it was to help Mrs. Kennedy through her grief so she wouldn't have to deal with the trial and, and a bunch of other bullshit. But a lot of people believe that he was silencing Oswald so that he couldn't talk and reveal who he was in cahoots with or who had actually killed JFK.
Gotcha.
So, thoughts so far before we get into the conspiracy stuff?
I mean, it definitely sounds like a silencing thing. Like, just a random dude, like just a nightclub owner. He's not like.
I mean, he was a prominent figure, but like I think he had ties to the mafia. Okay.
Well, it definitely sounds like a cover-up. I now understand more like why people think this is a conspiracy.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. I spent 4 hours researching this.
Whoa.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. Usually, I look at the Wikipedia and I'm like, all right, this stuff sounds good because this is a comedy podcast and we're just gonna bullshit our way through this. I actually started like doing research on this, and 4 hours later, I found myself going, those killed him and blamed it on Oswald to cover it up. There's proof right here. It's all here. Like, he's getting a tinfoil hat out and everything. Like, it's a deep, dark rabbit hole. Like, if you ever want to actually go, because it'd be like, well, here's a conspiracy theory, and then it would mention something I had no clue what it was. So I'd click on that, and then that brings up a whole new aspect to this conspiracy theory. It's just like, it goes really deep. I eventually had to just be like, all right, I need to pick my favorite conspiracy theories and get going with this. So anyway, it obviously seems like some kind of cover-up, because as far as we can tell, the Jack Ruby, was it Jack? Yeah, Jack Ruby didn't have any like connection to the Kennedys, really.
Yeah.
So for him to be like, well, I just felt really bad for Mrs. Kennedy and I didn't want her to have to go through the heartbreak of a trial, so I thought I'd just kill him. Like,
yeah, that's not a good excuse, bro. That's not a good excuse for killing someone at all. Okay.
No, not at all. I mean, is there a good excuse? Well, yeah, there's probably some good excuses for killing people.
I'm curious, what was Lee Harvey Oswald's like motivation? Was there a reason he was trying to kill the Kennedy, or was that something that you came across in your research?
Yeah, it had something to do with Marxism, and
okay,
he killed Kennedy because of his political stance on a lot of stuff.
Gotcha. So, interesting.
I didn't delve too far into that, but I do remember from like a long time ago.
Right. Okay. And I'm sure you'll get into this later, but like, is that another theory? Is that like the Communist Party they were using him as like a hitman for Kennedy?
Yes. Okay. I did not put that one in my notes just because it was, since I knew we'd be talking about the fact that he was a Marxist.
Right.
I figured it was kind of obvious that was one of the theories.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But yeah, that is one of the theories that Soviet Russia, like, that they brainwashed him when he went to Russia and then sent him back as a sleeper agent and reactivated him to kill Kennedy.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good.
Now, it's widely believed that there were multiple gunmen, that Harvey, if he did do this, did not act alone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is based on, like, these beliefs are based on the number of shots that were fired, because he supposedly fired 3, but I think they found 4 or 5. And then also on a report from Robert Grodin, who, I don't want to get into the specifics of it because we'll be here all day, but he named at least a dozen possible origins for the shots.
Okay.
One being, where Harvey was positioned, and then there was one that was across the street. There was one that was like straight on from the motorcade. Obviously the grassy knoll, which everyone has heard of.
Yes.
And then like there were some that were on top of the book depository, and another reason for the multiple gunman theory is that there is a photograph that shows a bullet hole in the windshield above the rearview mirror.
Like from the front of the car? Okay.
Yeah. And the FBI's, because the way that they said that it happened, there's no way that it could have exited like that and hit the windshield. The FBI said that it had happened prior to Dallas, but George Whitaker in like 1993 finally went on record saying that 3 days after the assassination, he was a manager at Ford in Detroit, and they had sent the limousine there to get fixed. And he said that he had found a through-and-through bullet hole in the windshield from the front, and he was told by his supervisor to destroy the old windshield.
Okay, so there's just layers and layers of deceit kind of piling up here.
Yep, yeah. Which, it's a useless windshield now, so maybe it was just like, we don't have any use for this, destroy it. But at the same time, even back then, they did do some kind of recycling. Like, they could have used that glass and melted it down and turned it into a new windshield, but he was specifically told to destroy it.
Also, it's like evidence in the murder of a president, so that's weird to destroy.
Yeah. And then also the back of JFK's head was blown out. But the trajectory of the bullet didn't match that, because supposedly in the reports, it went in through his neck, came out like in the back of his spine, came out through the front of his neck, and then also went into one of the Secret Service members. So, if that was the only bullet that hit him and killed him, how was the back of his head blown out?
Okay.
There was also reports of, in a photo, it's a really blurry photo, and I wish we had a way to put this up online for people to see, but we don't really have anything like that yet. There's a really blurry photo. If you just look up Badge Man Grassy Knoll, you'll see what I'm talking about. But they called him the Badge Man, and it was actually, some theories say that it's J.D. Tippit, the guy from earlier.
Okay.
They say that there's this photo that was taken like a millisecond after the shots were fired, and he's got a gun raised, like he's standing over in the grassy knoll, and the whole thing is like, even if he was reacting to the first couple of gunshots, how did he get his gun out so fast?
Okay.
So they think that,
I'm looking at it right now. I see what they're saying. It's also like incredibly blurry and hard to know what it is.
Right.
It could be a tree branch.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of other, like, again, we'd be here all day if I went through everything, but there was a guy with an umbrella when it wasn't raining, and there was a guy with a dog doing something suspicious off over here, and like, it's just too much going on.
There was a time traveler. He was wearing sunglasses that were out of style.
He was wearing Oakleys from 2015, and he was clearly from Florida because, I mean, come on. Who else wears Oakleys?
That's it.
Now, some of the more interesting theories here. This one, like, there's really no research to do on this one because it was like 2 or 3 sentences. But there are people who believe that there is a shadow government of rich industrialists and right-wing politicians who ordered the assassination.
The Illuminati. Oh boy.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But like, the reason was that JFK's death allowed for policy reversals that allowed things to escalate, like with U.S. involvement in Vietnam.
Interesting.
And I kind of tried to look up like how would we benefit from that, or how would they benefit from that, and it also kind of led me down a weird rabbit hole. So I just left it alone because there was too much weird going on there, and I was like, all right, this is getting into like paranormal devil worship shit.
Oh boy. Man, you went deep on this one.
I'm telling you, man, I didn't even mean to. Like, I would just be like, okay, well, let's find out a little bit about this, so I can add it in my notes. And 30 minutes later, I'm reading about how the Illuminati sacrificed Hillary Clinton's firstborn son or whatever. Like,
shit.
Like that is not something I actually read, but like, it's just weird shit. So let me get your thoughts on that. What do you think about the shadow government thing?
Okay. I don't know if there's like, it seems like there's enough weird stuff going on that like the actual government probably did it. Like FBI is probably like my number one theory right now off the bat.
We're getting there.
Oh boy. Okay.
I'm just stopping because I know it's a lot of information to process really quickly, so I just want to give you a chance to.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let me digest a little bit.
Right. But if you look at all the claims and stuff, a lot of it, like I said, with the multiple gunmen thing, I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, all of the evidence is here. There were multiple gunmen. Even though, like, I've led my entire life believing that it was just Lee Harvey Oswald all along.
Is there like a unified, this is what happened statement from the U.S. government that's gone out? Is that something that exists?
Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald did it.
Okay, cool. And then the killing of him afterward was just like, yeah, it was a different dude not involved with us, and he killed him before he could testify. Yeah,
okay. That was the official statement, was that Jack Ruby did it to spare Mrs. Kennedy the heartbreak of having to go through a trial. Oh, one interesting theory, Secret Service did it.
Okay.
That's it. No evidence, just the Secret Service did
it. They were close to him. They had a chance. There you go.
Moving on.
That's all you need.
Yeah. Well, the House Select Committee on Assassinations. This was like a committee that was formed a long time ago specifically to investigate assassinations and assassination attempts. Mm-hmm. They investigated the Secret Service for complicity, like just doing their job, but it was found that there was no complicity, like they didn't have anything to do it, but they were deficient in their duties protecting the president. Supposedly they had information that they did not analyze or act on, like just kind of blew it off,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also Roy Kellerman, who was in the right front seat, didn't cover JFK's body with his own, even though protocol would call for him to do that as soon as he heard a shot.
Gotcha.
Like that would be, he would immediately, if he was doing his job properly, would have thrown himself over the president as soon as he heard the first shot. Like even if the body's dead, just to be safe.
Yeah.
In case there's a chance that his body could shield the president and the president was still alive.
Gotcha.
And there's speculation that Kennedy may have told the Secret Service to be discreet, but that was disputed by a Vince Palomara, because the driver of the car said that there were things like having the top removed from the car and not having agents positioned beside the car's rear bumper and things like that. Those were not requested by JFK.
Interesting. Okay.
Those were things that should have or should not have been done, but were not actually requested by the president, supposedly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then also in violation of the JFK Records Act, which is, I can't remember when it was put into place, but it's basically an act like specifically to collect any kind of records on the assassination of Kennedy. In violation of that, the Secret Service destroyed protective survey reports from September 24th to November 8th of 1963.
Interesting. Okay.
Which was the year he got killed.
And why did they give, like, is there any reason or like explanation for that, or was just like,
not that I know of. Like, I didn't see. I looked, and there was no, like, a reporter was told that was what happened.
Gotcha. Well, that's shady as shit. That's like,
You can see how, like, I went down this rabbit hole and came out the other side going, this is a conspiracy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Huh. Okay.
Here's where we get into the FBI. Well,
oh boy.
CIA and FBI. There was speculation that Oswald was in the CIA or being used by the CIA. The CIA obviously completely refuted this, but then Gaten Fonzie, an investigator for the HSCA, the House Select Committee on Assassinations, said that, like, this was later, like years down the road, he revealed that investigators were pressured not to look at the relationship between Oswald and the CIA. Well, if there's no relationship, why are we being told not to look at the relationship?
Yeah.
And there was an agent, David Atlee Phillips, going under the pseudonym Maurice Bishop, was apparently involved with Oswald prior to the JFK assassination in connection with anti-Castro Cuban groups.
Okay.
And then in 1995, National Security Agency Executive Assistant John M. Newman published evidence that the CIA and the FBI tampered with files about Oswald both before and after the assassination.
Okay.
And they withheld info, like the FBI and CIA withheld info that might have alerted the Dallas authorities to the potential threat that Oswald posed to the president's life.
Gotcha. Well, there's so much here to talk.
Yeah.
Like, that's bizarre. Like, most, like, conspiracy theories, and I did air quotes on a podcast, which doesn't translate very well, but most conspiracy theories have, like, almost nothing to back them up, and it seems like there's so much going on here that, like, is verifiable, and this is something that was deleted from history. It's very surprising to me.
Yeah, this is one of the most well documented conspiracy theories. I think the only one that's more well documented than this is 9/11. Gotcha. All the conspiracies about it, how it was an inside job.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, again, you can see how spending 4 hours researching this, you could come out the other side completely questioning everything you've ever known about this topic.
Yeah.
So go ahead, give me your thoughts before we solve this. Just kind of give me, what are you thinking?
Okay, so the amount of stuff that's been deleted from, like, public record is super fascinating. That doesn't just, like, happen. Like, it seems very intentional. So I think it, like, that's like the most compelling thing, is the lack of that information being available anymore.
Right.
And there has to be a reason for that. Like, there's something fishy going on. Because if it was just a straight up, like, all right, well, this guy doesn't like the president because he's kind of a communist, and then he killed the president, and that's it. I feel like that seems like a very serving narrative to what America was trying to do at the time too. I know, like, the Cuban Missile Crisis is happening, like, Cold War shit's going on. Like, America does not like the Reds, so to have a communist kill the president of the United States and then get killed by a true American Dallas bar owner,
right?
That seems like a very, like, uninspired story, is what I would say. It sounds too easy for what.
But, you know, like you said, it plays to American fears at the time and shit. So
yeah,
I'm right there with you as far as, like, there is just so much. It's like, if one person is out there saying you did something, like, if I'm doing drugs and one person is out there saying, hey, Chad's been sucking to for a bump of cocaine on the street corners lately, chances are, like, there's a good chance that that's not true. Dude's just telling lies about me. But if hundreds of people are like, yeah, Chad sucked my for a bump of coke, there's a chance it's probably true.
It's probably true. The whole thing, it's kind of like the thou doth protest too much kind of thing, too.
Yeah.
If whoever denied it, supplied it, fart rule, like...
He who shouts the loudest that he is innocent is usually the most guilty.
Yeah. That's a very eloquent way to say thou who supplied it or denied it supplied it. But
thou who...
Yeah, like...
Yeah, that was Shakespeare, wasn't it? Thou who doth supply... Did thou who did deny...
Doth supply. It sounds like the...
Romeo,
yeah.
oh, Romeo. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's... Romeo, oh, Romeo. Did you fart, oh, Romeo?
And then Romeo's just down there like, thou who did deny, he doth supply.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to do a remake of Romeo and Juliet now, so...
It's just nothing but fart jokes.
I feel like that exists already, and it's probably not very good. So,
what were you saying?
We got sidetracked. It sounds like the FBI's like there's too many pieces of things where like, oh yeah, that definitely wasn't us, and we lost the files. There's it's too many like coincidences for it to be not shady.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm sitting right now.
Okay. Well, I hear you, man. Like, it's just, I've said 1,000 times, I went into this knowing that it was Lee Harvey Oswald. Mm-hmm. And 4 hours later, I came out the other side going, those they framed a good man. He might have been a communist, but he didn't do anything wrong. Those assholes. I had to physically stop myself from continuing research. Because I think I finished my notes probably 30 minutes before 5, specifically because I was like, I haven't eaten all day. We have to record in 30 minutes. Let's move on to the solution here. Colt, lay it on me. Who actually killed JFK?
I feel like the only solution is Lee Harvey Oswald.
That was incredibly quick. Like, all this evidence, and you were talking about how... oh yeah, it must have been a cover-up, and you're just like, yep, it was definitely Lee Harvey Oswald.
Listen, Chad, I don't want to step out of the third wall here, but or the fourth wall here, but
the third wall.
It's an audio medium. We're not in 4 dimensions. I don't know what we're doing.
We're not even in 3 dimensions, so we're breaking the third wall now.
Yeah. I was contacted by some government agencies, and I'm kind of afraid. So I think we're just going to stick with their story for now.
Oh, well, I wish you had told me this beforehand, and then we wouldn't have done the episode at all. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, looks like Lee Harvey Oswald did it, folks. Okay. We'll see you next week when the tune of the podcast changes and we start talking about the Care Bears and which one is our favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've dug too deep.
We're doing no more mysteries, guys. Just got a red dot on my forehead the entire time. Well, there you have it, listeners. We, the experts, have finally put this whole thing to bed. The solution to this one is just exactly, what the government has been telling us. It was Lee Harvey Oswald, and don't question the government. For God's sakes, don't question what they've told you. Just blindly believe it. As per, usual, if you want to support the podcast, best way to do that at the moment is by word of mouth and to go on iTunes and rate the show 5 stars, leave a review. And if you leave a review, if you rate and review the show before the 10th episode goes live, we will personally shout you out in a future episode.
Yeah.
It's just kind of our way of saying thanks to those who got us who are helping us get where we're going. You can also find us on Facebook at Unsolved Mysteries Solved and on Twitter at Solved Podcast. And like always, if you have a mystery you want us to solve, or if you want to threaten us or tell us how much we suck or whatever you want to do, You can do that with a quick little email to mysteriessolvedpodcast, all one word, at gmail.com. And I guess until next week, normally we would sign off by saying, don't question us or you'll be put down, but I think this time, in retrospect, don't question the government or...
You will be put down.
Yep. And thanks again for listening, everybody.
All right. Talk to you guys next week.